I kid you not. I saw that and was like, well, is it a bad time to tell you that I think she's roared to being the second most popular player in the WNBA? And guess what? You can imagine who it is. It's members of the old WNBA fandom, the ones that root for Paige Beckers and Angel Reese and Asia Wilson and all. It is. All right. So let's look at this picture. My boy CDS Sports Podcast, go subscribe. He's on YouTube. He's on Twitter.
It started with one collision, Sophie Cunningham on the ground, holding her knee, Bria Hartley smirking on camera, fans furious. That single moment had everyone calling for justice, for accountability, for change. But then, just days later, Hartley's own season ends with a torn meniscus in practice. That's the twist nobody saw coming. And while the league focused on punishments, Indiana quietly shifted the storyline. The Fever stopped being about controversy, and instead showed us a portrait of resilience. The question now, have these injuries completely rewritten Indiana's season?
Because I believe that's happened. And now, the Indiana Fever has lost both of their top draws. Both of their top billings. He posted this. This is Bria Hartley right here, grinning from ear to ear with Sophie Cunningham smiling. The usual damn suspects, all right, are celebrating this. They're throwing out the MAGA thing. I mean, the whole nine.
Imagine this. A regular drive to the basket turns into something that nobody would forget for weeks. Sophie Cunningham crashes to the floor, grabbing her knee and wincing in pain. From the outside, it looked like just one more battle in a tough game, but the replay told a story fans weren't willing to move past. Bria Hartley made contact, Cunningham lost balance, and in that split second, basketball shifted from competition to controversy. Instantly, people asked the same question. Was this part of the game, or did Hartley go too far? But that's the setup. In real time, it could have been explained away as an ugly accident, but cameras caught something else. Hartley jogging back with what looked like a smirk on her face. That single image poured gasoline onto the moment. Suddenly, this wasn't just about Sophie's injury. It was about intent. Was the smile a sign she meant it, or was it an unfair screenshot taken at the wrong time? Depending on who you asked, it was either misunderstood emotion or proof of a nasty play. For the fans, that distinction didn't matter. The smirk told the whole story. And outrage exploded. Reactions came in waves. Some called it dirty, flat out unsportsmanlike. Others defended it as strong defense that just ended badly. The divide wasn't quiet either. Clips of the play racked up thousands of views. Slow motion rewinds played side by side with Hartley's expression, and people built narratives that spread like wildfire. And the faster the post went up, the angrier the tone became. The hashtag Justice for Sophie gained momentum while others started throwing around the phrase instant karma long before Hartley's own injury even happened. It showed how quickly basketball drama now lives outside of the court. Here's where it gets tricky. Sophie herself didn't take the bait. She spoke calmly, brushed off the incident as part of the game, and even went so far as to show grace toward Hartley. Instead of fanning the flames, Sophie carried herself like a professional, but her approach didn't calm anybody else down. In fact, it made the online backlash even sharper. Fans asked why the injured player could be mature, while the league said nothing about preventing similar hits in the future. It flipped into a bigger debate about accountability, and that debate turned Hartley into a kind of villain figure, whether fair or not. Now, consider the so-called duck story that kept coming up around her name. The idea didn't come from this one collision. Supporters of the narrative pointed back to other moments, arguing that Hartley always played on the edge, always pushed the line. One aggressive nudge, one extra bump off the ball, and people began to call it a pattern. The Cunningham hit wasn't an isolated mistake. It was, to them, the clearest proof yet of who Hartley was as a competitor. That's how the dirtiest player label took hold so quickly, because the internet rarely waits for nuance when a villain fits so neatly. Family voices even jumped in, pointing to how the league seems quicker to react when bigger stars take contact, but stays quieter when it's someone like Sophie. That set off another round of frustration. Was the WNBA applying different standards depending on which player went down? The collision became more than one player against another. It turned into a discussion about how consistent the league wants to be with player safety across the board. The tension reached a point where Hartley's smirk wasn't just an image. image anymore. It had completely reshaped how she was viewed. And that's the real payoff. Without the smirk, maybe this play fades away as just another unfortunate injury. But because of it, Hartley's reputation hardened in fan eyes as the league's most reckless player. Everyone was watching for the next chapter. And here's the twist. Karma didn't take long to show up, except it wasn't Sophie or the fans who cashed in. It might actually be the Indiana Fever who stand to gain the most. Here's where it gets interesting. When Bria Hartley went down in practice with that knee injury, it looked like Indiana's season was about to collapse. The media ran with the instant karma line. Fans called it payback for what happened to Sophie Cunningham. The timing was too perfect for them to ignore. But while headlines pointed fingers, something different was happening inside the Fever's locker room. They weren't moping. They weren't looking around for excuses. Instead, they started rewriting their season story in real time. Think about it. Hartley just joined Indiana with plenty of experience, a veteran guard who was expected to bring balance, scoring, and toughness, and then gone. Torn meniscus, out for the season before she even had a chance to impact their run. That creates pressure, right? A team already fighting to fit new pieces together suddenly loses depth. Most people expect a downturn when that happens. The question hanging in the air was simple. Does Indiana fold under the weight, or do they find another way to rise? You got your first answer almost immediately. Kelsey Mitchell didn't just play well, she exploded. In one stretch, she dropped 38 points in a single game. That wasn't just a scoring night. That was the kind of performance that forces the league to pay attention. She nailed her shots from deep, attacked the rim, and carried the offense all night. The league noticed too, naming her Eastern Conference Player of the Week. Without Hartley, the Fever didn't shrink. One of their core players took ownership and said, "This is my team. This is my moment." That's a huge shift right there. But it wasn't just Mitchell. Look at Lexi Hull. She's not grabbing the spotlight with 30-point nights, but she's filling that leadership void. Every team needs someone to hold the locker room steady when outside noise gets too loud. Instead of guys scrolling through social media posts about karma, she kept the group focused on the actual battles ahead. Steady play, hustle, keeping composure on the floor, those pieces matter more than people realize. It's not flashy, but it's the glue that holds things together when a season could easily spiral out of control. And then you have this cloud of anticipation hanging over everything. Caitlin Clark inching closer to her full return. Every injury update turns into a story. Every practice clip sparks new speculation. Fans keep looking at the calendar, asking when she'll be back to full minutes. And that creates this wild what-if scenario. What if Clark returns at the right time, just as Mitchell is hitting peak form and Hull is solidifying the lineup? Suddenly, the Fever don't look like a team in crisis. They start looking like a team about to make a run at something bigger than anyone thought possible. Social media even shifted gears. The same accounts that were blasting Hartley for dirty play were now dropping takes about the Fever being cursed, then blessed. Instead of punishment, the word became payback. That's a complete flip from where things started. But the team itself, they didn't engage in any of it. They kept hooping, kept finding ways to win games they probably shouldn't have won. When you see young players get more minutes and actually produce, that's when adversity officially turns into opportunity. So here's the real twist. Everyone thought the story was about justice coming for Hartley, but what it really did was crack the door for Indiana to step through. They filled the rotation void with hungry players who wanted to prove themselves. They discovered Mitchell in takeover mode. They saw Hull anchor the group when distractions hit. And now they're staring at the possibility of turning this chaos into a legitimate playoff chase. So let's not lose sight of Sophie Cunningham. Support her recovery because her toughness set the tone for this entire story. And keep an eye on Indiana because this so-called low point might be the start of their best run yet. Maybe this wasn't punishment. It was the spark of a comeback nobody expected.